Okay, so just outline the problem for me first, as you were looking at it before you decided to tackle it.
Of course. Look, everyone in America has heard about problems related to non-citizens or illegal aliens being on voter rolls. This is a very common occurrence. Now, the left would want you to believe, of course, that this never happens. No one would ever be an illegal alien and register to vote. But it's actually more common than what you would actually think. It's actually a very frequent occurrence, especially at the point of obtaining a driver's license or other such things, where someone can get added to a state's list of voters where they shouldn't be. Or if they actually use a federal form where they just simply check a box that says that I swear that I am a citizen. Now, please register me to vote. Those are real problems. There should never be an illegal alien on any state's voter rolls. Now, look, there are a number of states who have been doing some things for a number of years that are kind of very basic and that are helpful and that are good, but they don't go far enough. So what we have done at America First Legal is identify a plan that every state across America can use, steps that they can take to remove illegal aliens from their list of voters using data and information that they're entitled to receive from the Department of Homeland Security.
All right, stand by. We'll get to the cure in a minute. I want to spend another few minutes on the problem. So is it the case, because when I lived in New York City, they passed a law trying to make it legal for illegal aliens to vote. That was not upheld. But are there states out there like the crazy New York, policy that are actually trying? You mentioned driver's licenses for illegals. We know Tim Walz wanted this in Minnesota. So there are states out there that are saying it's fine for illegals to get driver's licenses. And I guess there could be some as crazy as New York where then they say, and they should have the right to vote. Do you know whether that's out there?
Yeah, and it certainly is. And it can also happen in states that aren't crazy because there is a single point of failure. And the single point of failure is at the point of the person getting the driver's license from a clerk at the DMV. That is your single point of failure. So if you are a clerk at the DMV and someone comes to you, maybe they're an illegal alien and maybe it's a crazy state that says, hey, we give driver's licenses to everyone who's here regardless of their immigration status, or maybe you're a good state, but your laws in your state say that if you're here and you have work authorization from the Department of Homeland Security, that we'll go ahead and give you a driver's license. Now, what can happen, though, at that single point of failure, at the point of getting your driver's license, is that at least before the Real ID Act, and there's still problems after the Real ID Act, is that it's just a matter of somebody checking a box that says, I'm a citizen and I want to be registered to vote. This is something that happens all over the place. And it is something that leads to people being on the voter rolls, which of course is an important point to point out to everyone right now. The issue here is not necessarily that an illegal alien is 100% of the time going to go register to vote at the DMV or through the mail, and that they are then going to show up at the ballot box and themselves cast a vote. The issue here, of course, is that they are getting their name registered to vote. And when you have states all across the country using mail-in ballots, right? This is all about ballot harvesting and getting as many names on as many ballots as you possibly can turned in, get the votes counted, of course, before anyone can do anything. And then at the end of the day, say, look, there's more ballots that were cast for, so-and-so than the other.
Explain that. What do you mean? So Democratic operatives engaging in fraud would figure out who's an illegal and who's not and try to send in a ballot for this guy that he doesn't even know he's sending in?
Look, that's certainly something that can happen. And it's certainly something that can happen, especially in transient communities. So if you're at an apartment, your listeners across the country will understand that if you're in an apartment, it's oftentimes you'll get mail for the prior residents. It's especially going to be true in transient communities populated by immigrants. And so if you are somebody who gets registered to vote, and you're in one of these states that does 100% mail-in balloting, one of these states that makes it extremely easy to request your ballot to be sent in via the mail, and no one ever has to check or confirm that you are in fact a citizen, that at some point along the process that you produce documentation that shows that you are in fact a citizen of the United States, the recipes for fraud are almost unlimited in terms of what can possibly be done.
Do we have any idea how many illegal aliens are currently registered or have been registered over the past few years in the United States, and in particular in the swing states?
It's a wonderful question, and I don't know that there's any kind of actual reliable evidence indicating one number or another. The fact of the matter, though, is that there are millions upon millions of illegal aliens who have entered the United States over the last 3.5 years, that they are here, and they are loose in the United States. And when you look at the margin of victory in a place like Arizona or in a place like Georgia, where just a couple thousand, 10,000, 20,000 votes can make the difference in the outcome of an election, the recipe is there. And it's really a matter of how do we make sure that there are none on the voter rolls. If it's 100, that's a problem. If it's 1,000, it's a problem. If it's 100,000, it's a problem. Now, some of your listeners have probably seen in the recent weeks, there have been a number of elected officials across the country putting out press releases saying things like, hey, guess what? We removed 4,000 non-citizens from our voter rolls over the last year or so.
2,500 in Pennsylvania.
Exactly.
Virginia's been cracking down. North Carolina identified more than 1,400. Arizona said we've identified 42,000 people as federal-only registrants, which I don't totally understand. But yes, so more and more are coming out to say they're making this effort and they've identified some. So keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's great. And what they're typically doing in those situations is using a system called SAVE that DHS administers. And so for your viewers at home and listeners at home, think about it this way. DHS has a database that states are eligible to ping against. But to use that database, to have it be reliable, you have to have some kind of an identifier that links the person to an identifier in the DHS database. And so that identifier tends to be what's known as an alien registration number. And so think of this as like you're searching for a friend on social media, right? And if you're searching for a friend and you have their email address, maybe you can actually find the person because you have their email address. But if you don't have their email address, you're never going to find the person. And this is depending on the privacy settings. And so this is the single point of failure for the SAVE system is if you have someone who's registering to vote, whether that's with a federal form, and we can touch more on that in a minute, or whether it's somebody who registered to vote at the DMV, chances are they didn't provide you with an alien registration number. Chances are that they just gave you their name and their date of birth, which makes this DHS SAVE system essentially worthless to get the folks off of the voter rolls who didn't actually give you their alien registration number. So when you see a press release from someone saying, hey, we removed 4,000 people from our voter rolls using the DHS SAVE system, well, that's fabulous and that's great. Now just imagine how many more you can do if you could instead search by things like a name and a date of birth.
Okay, so you're saying there's a lot more on that federal registry who would be illegal. We don't have the technology right now to capture them. And so they will remain on the voter registration rolls as illegal aliens. The system is flawed.
Well, yes and no. So the system that DHS built for the states to use, called SAVE, is flawed and it has that issue. But here's the great thing, and here's the fun thing for all of the states across the country. And it's actually part of a plan that we laid out for all of the states across the country to use, which is there's a law in the books, in the Immigration and Nationality Act at 8 U.S.C. 1373. And it says that a state or local government can get information from the Department of Homeland Security to verify or ascertain the citizenship status of any individual in their jurisdiction for any purpose authorized under law. and that DHS has to provide that information to the state or the locality. And so what DHS is doing is that they've been telling the states and the local governments, hey, you have to use this SAVE database and you have to use this alien registration number as the query. Oh, and by the way, DHS charges the states and localities to use it. But there is a separate provision of law that nobody was using up until recently that says that actually the states are entitled to receive this information as a matter of law. And it's about any individual, and it's to ascertain or to verify their citizenship or immigration status for any purpose authorized under law. And so any purpose authorized under law certainly has to include ensuring that there are eligible voters on your voter rolls and there's not any illegal aliens or, for example, permanent residents or anyone else who's not entitled to vote on the voter rolls. And so the states have the ability to ask DHS to give them the information that they need about anyone that they have any question about on their voter rolls.
They just need the will to do it. But here's my question on that. So they need the will to do it. But in my experience, the only states that would have the will to do it would be blue states, and they're not going to do it. I mean, and they don't, like, they're not going to. And the red states might want to do it, but that doesn't really help Republicans make sure there are fair elections, right? So then what do the swing states do? The odds of the swing states actually taking advantage of this, I think, are slim and none because, I don't know, most of them tend to have Democratic governors.
Yeah, look, it's a real conundrum, and you've identified it, is everyone should be doing this, though, because DHS has the capability to verify based on a name, based on a date of birth. They do have the technological capability of doing this. And so this is a matter of common sense. This is a matter of good government. This should not be a red or a blue issue or anything in between. This is a common sense measure that every state across the country should be using.
Grand Canyon University, it's a private Christian university in Phoenix, Arizona. They believe we're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. GCU wants to help you honor your career calling so you can impact your family, friends, and community. Change the world for good by putting others before yourself. Whether that involves a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, GCU's online, on-campus, and hybrid learning environments are designed to help you achieve your unique academic, personal, and professional goals. The pursuit to serve others is yours. Let it flourish. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University, private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu, gcu.edu. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.